I'm probably the only person in the entire country that's doing this. So it makes me unique. A very warm welcome to my humble abode here at Westcott, to which you are cordially invited to have a look round and ascertain my lifestyle.
69-year-old Richard has been hoarding magazines and newspapers for over 4 decades.
Well, it's literally one of each paper, you know, like the Mirror, the Sun, the Star, the Times, the Financial Times, you know, the whole lot. Well, overall, with stuff that's up in the roof, we go back to 1976. I'm probably the only person in the entire country that's doing this. So it makes me unique. Over time, they do tend to lean. Susceptible to collapse, shall we put it that way. If you can reach the ceiling and wedge it into the ceiling, then you've won. Yeah. Just like that, you see.
Hoarding becomes an issue when it affects daily life. It's believed as many as 1 in 20 of us could harbour a serious hoarding problem.
I think there's a bit of a hoarder in most people in that they keep things.
But some sufferers have taken their behaviour to the extreme.
This is what counts for a kitchen, which is considerably better than it once was, but obviously nowhere near as it should be. But, I mean, you know, it's the things I do to achieve what I want to achieve.
It's not just newspapers that Richard collects.
Those labels come from different fruits, mainly apples. I've got a thing about packaging and various containers. This is a throughway to the loo and bathroom. You can go in there if you want to, but it's up to you. So this is a master bedroom. There's one bed there and another one underneath that one. It is possible to get reasonably comfortable in a chair. What I'd like to do is to look at it all collectively and then make an overall decision and then implement it rather than just throwing things out every day or every week.
Is that the aim, to kind of clear up a bit?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Ahead of you is where the sitting room is or was. But the entire content of the hall was moved into that room, so that really is quite densely packed. I used to have to allow 20 minutes to half an hour to get to the front door, but anybody who's visited had gone. So.
Eventually, the hoard outgrew Richard's bungalow, and then his hoarding went public.
When the first lot of retained material found its way creeping outdoors, people had a full view of what was going on, whereas if it had been the walls stayed put, then obviously they wouldn't be aware of it quite so much. So that attracted attention. So I find myself in my own papers that I was trying to keep, as it were. So that got interesting. I've had multiple copies of what I appeared in.
Richard became known as Britain's most extreme hoarder and successfully defended his right to keep his hoard through the courts.
The human rights situation is such that everyone's entitled to the enjoyment of their possessions, I think is how it's worded. So that helped me win the day. It's a labour of love, really.
He doesn't just collect, though. He delivers, too.
The round, I suppose, has diminished by about a third, I suppose, since I first started.
Richard had to pick up the paper round to help fund his hoarding.
Well, I've got a thing about newspapers, and they had a sort of vacancy of a paper boy, so I said, well, I'll deliver some papers, and that will pay my paper bill, as it were. So that's how it started. It was only meant as a temporary measure, but here we are 13 years on. I'm approaching 70 years old, having lived in the village all my life.
Richard is the 3rd generation to live in the family home, which he's shared with both parents and grandparents.
Obviously one passes and then another, so here I am on my own for the last 15 years or so. My father used to be quite fastidious in that he would be sweeping the paths and just for the sake of tidiness. One tends to rebel against what the previous generation did.
Richard was the home carer for his mother in the final years of her life.
The hoarding started in earnest about the turn of the millennium. It wasn't a problem at all, it just gradually escalated. But it's only in the last 10, 15 years or so that it's got like it has. That is literally one of each.
Richard's home has become a time bomb, dangerous for his health.
Had I appreciated earlier on what I was letting myself in for, I would have approached it much differently than I in fact did. So unfortunately, we're a bit late to actually implement what I've learned. But I get through it, get by, so I'm reasonably happy.
Hoarding is a problem that just grows if the sufferer doesn't take action. And the result is inevitable. Space will eventually run out.
There's the trouble, it's sort of piles of stuff here, there and everywhere waiting to be processed. The trouble is that you've got to carry on with ordinary life in between times, isn't it? It's very difficult. Day to day is just going through the normal domestic routine of keeping body and soul together, as it were, and also trying to prevent the inevitable bit by bit accumulation of things.
Richard's home is now so full, even the basics are becoming impossible.
You have to hold it out like that, because if you don't, the chocolate melts and you get it all over your fingers. Or if you get chocolate fingerprints all over the papers, and that will never do. I'm getting slimmer and slimmer. I don't allow myself to get to the point where I'm literally starving. I have sandwiches and donuts and things of that nature, and then that's supplemented with the fish and chips and sort of dinner for ones in the oven there. So yes, I mean, I get by.
There's a whole neighbourhood that would like to help him clear it.
Well, I've got to know Richard, I think it's over 7 years. I mean, Richard's been to my house for Christmas dinner. We're trying as a community to try and help him.
The oldest part of Richard's hoard is the thing he's more passionate about than his papers.
With me, it happens to be classic cars, and of course they take up the room that they do. And
I think effectively there's 17 broken cars around this land here. If we could just get one car done up, I'd love to see him driving around in this old vintage Jag, just having a life.
If I was push comes to shove, which would I choose? Obviously, the cars are a greater love than mere newspapers. I mean, it'd be nice to be able to deal with both, but there you go.
After a lifetime of hoarding, it's possible things may never change.
I would not like it to be just people coming in and just ordering up a number of skips and then the whole lot just disappears, because that represents pretty much a life's work just gone to waste. An Englishman's home is his castle. I've built my home, and you can call it what you like, but it's an extension of me. It represents what I am, and don't sort of interfere, sort of thing.
Richard's happy, that's the way he wants to live, and we have to respect that and work with him at the same time.